Thanks for tuning in to your favorite content creator, UTV. To find out more, follow us on our social media platforms: YouTube UTV124, Facebook UTV124, Instagram UTV124, Twitch UTV124, TikTok UTV_124, and Flow TV channel 124. Remember, UTV, TV for you.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the host, co-host, guest, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of UTV or its affiliates.
Hello and welcome. Thank you all for joining the Underground UTV channel 124 on Flow. Thanks to all those locked in on Hits Radio, Asylum and the crew, giving you all stress, of course. 92.1 in the north, 91.1 in the south FM. Thank you very much for partnering with us, even though, like I said, I know I give you all some stress when we go over time. Of course, to the folks locked in on UTV, on Instagram, on Twitch, on YouTube, on TikTok, platforms, and of course Facebook. Thank you very much, UTV124 for all. Now, folks, it is Monday. Always happy to survive another week. Yes, Monday, the 21st of June, 2021, or as we know it, the 15th day of the 6th year of the 5-year term of the Shasney administration. You have to send a couple of birthday greetings, but first I want to say a special happy day, good day. Thank you so much for your viewership. Mr. Thomas Wilson of Union, 86-year-old, always locked in. Thank you so much for your support. I want to send birthday greetings out to the former Minister for Health and former MP for Babono, that being Alvina Reynolds. Hope you have a wonderful day. Greetings coming from your mom and all of your constituents. Many Labour Party supporters still rallying with you. Also, greetings going out to Welcome St. Rose. Happy birthday to you. Hoping you have a truly great day as well. Trevelyan Bonaparte, the one-woman army. Yes, happy birthday greetings going out to you as well. Hope you have a chance to lock in today and know you are overseas doing your part. Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something for the cause. And of course, the former MP, that being Pep, the mighty Pep, the man who brought you Abba Gojla and Money Talks, that's right. And of course, the Walcott songs. Of course, Desmond Long, Dr. Desmond Long, happy birthday to you. Greetings coming from your son, Desral. And of course, the rest of your family, including your wife, hoping that you also have a great day with many blessings and many, many more to come. So folks, we've come off another weekend of bias when it comes to police and campaigning. Note well, the statistics are simple. The Labour Party has had multiple campaign, semi-campaign, whatever events stopped. And I don't have a problem if they break any of the protocols and the police deem it necessary to stop them. I understand. However, isn't it curious right now to note that to this day, not one United Workers' Party event has been stopped. Not one has been policed or cautioned, and what's even worse, up to this Sunday, Guy Joseph's vehicle, his campaign vehicle, which was the same one that was careening through a crowd of Labour Party supporters, threatening vehicular manslaughter, even though the number on the vehicle is known, the driver of the vehicle is known, the person has not even been brought in for questioning, and yet, once again, what Guy Joseph's people were doing on Sunday, not policed, but the Labour Party thing in Castries East was police. Two St. Lucia's, which one do you live in? If you live in the one that the rest of us are living in, then it is a sufferation. It is something that we need to get out of. We need liberation from. And if you live in the other one, you either live in a state of denial or you are one of the FFF plundering the country and willing to endorse bad governance for your own personal gain. So where do we start? Well, let's start off with the man who has the most classic PR line, and that would be Bradley Felix, as he says that he's not a politician. And sadly, he's worse because Guy Joseph is busy being Guy. Estefan is busy being Estefan. Fede is busy being the cockalorum. But when it comes to Bradley, Bradley pretends to be pious. But when you look down and you drill down, well, it's something else.
The sugar mills, which were in the hands of private owners, have now been acquired by the government. According to the parliamentary representative for Choiseul, Bradley Felix, some aspects of the nation's heritage need to be protected, noting the sentimental attachment associated with them. A residential structure was already in the process of being built on the property on which the mill is located in the Monsieur community. However, after discussions, the landowner agreed to abandon the project and was compensated for the land.
As a young boy growing up in the community of Choiseul, I was always under the impression that these iconic landmarks actually belonged to government. And it was only sometime, I think it was about 2 years ago, when in driving by, I recognized there was some construction, which appeared to be a house construction, right mere feet away from one of the sugar mills in Monsieur. And then in making some inquiries, I was told that the property had been sold to an individual to construct his home. In doing some additional background check, and I realized that none of the sugar mills actually belong to the Crown.
The MP revealed some of the proposed plans for the two structures, which he says came about following consultation and discussion with the residents of the area.
We would use the structure that the gentleman had already built, which was, he had already built a foundation, he had already put up some walls. We would use the foundation as a platform to where our vendors could actually use it to sell their craft, advertise their craft. When that is not happening, we could also use it as an area where we can do our traditional festivals, whether it be La Marguerite, La Rose. You could have a theater happening there, and we could create a wonderful park where people can have that experience of not just the sugar mill and its story, but there's also the theater part of it.
The Choiseul MP did not indicate a timeline when the ideas for the two mills and the surrounding areas might come to fruition.
Now I play this to demonstrate that Bradley Felix not only understands heritage and our history, but made a concerted effort to stop a St. Lucian from building a house near a cultural landmark that he considered to be iconic with regards to Choiseul. Now, in the backdrop of that story, physically, is Gopita, which Bradley, along with Herod Stanislaus, along with others, allowed to have a house built on and more construction still going on, but did not make any of those same claims or effort to stop that. Which one do you think is of greater paramount importance? The mill or the most recognizable, iconic symbol of the entire Caribbean, not OECS, not of St. Lucia, but the most recognizable symbol of the Caribbean, the pitos? Just think about that. But when it comes to the pitos, his thing is that it generates employment. So you could build a nuclear power plant in Choiseul as long as it generates employment. But when you stop the employment that would have been created for that house there with no identified source of funding, I like the idea of a theater, of a nice little park there and having events and so on. That's nice. That's nice. I don't know how it will impact the craft market at Lafargue, but that's for another story. But my question is, in fact, not my question, my point is I'm showing you that Bradley Felix actually knows and understands cultural significance and heritage to the point where he stopped a man from building a house on land that he bought because of the historical significance of the sugar mill. Just keep that in mind.
Country bookie! Hey, how you speaking? All of a sudden, these people are so concerned about country bookie?
Talk of a development on the lands at Ursivoin in Choiseul have been worrying for conservationist groups in St. Lucia. The land sits at the base of Gopito within the Pito Management Area PMA, which is a designated restrictive area, part of St. Lucia's World Heritage Site. Considering the ensuing controversy when it was revealed that DCA approval may have been granted to a developer to pursue work, I spoke to a parliamentary representative for the area. Bradley Felix confirmed that he is aware that there is a private development slated for the area.
I think one of the misconceptions is when people hear a no-build zone, you're under the impression that there should be absolutely no construction. There can be some construction, but within certain parameters. So for example, the size of what you're doing there, the height of what you're doing there, how much intrusion are you into maybe the pitons or the riverbed or the sea. There are various restrictions, and I think DCA is on top of that. What I'm happy about is that in the community, it is creating the sort of much needed employment activity. But we need to also ensure that it is not, at the expense of our patrimony.
According to the UNESCO World Heritage page for the area, despite the comprehensive legal and management framework, several threats require permanent attention. Both in the short and longer term, the increasingly strong pressure to construct hotels and residential buildings is the single most important threat to the integrity of the small property. It seems that for these reasons, various environmental conservation bodies have taken issue with the possible development.
Rest assured, Mr. Speaker, we will be forgiven. I thank you.
Now, they've tried to gobbledygook the whole thing and say, oh, Kenny is the one that did this, that, and the other. Folks, that's not true. Every St. Lucian has a right to buy land and to sell land. If a St. Lucian wants to sell land to somebody, whether it's a local or foreigner, and it's within the Pito management area, whoever buys the land, there's a phrase, simple, buyer beware, you have to know the terms and conditions. You cannot go and say, for example, build, remember there was a gas station by the highway, by where Avis was, by the VG roundabout, right? In changing up the road there, that gas station could no longer operate. You cannot build what you want, wherever you want. You cannot go into, for example, say Cap Estate now and put a supermarket. The rules and regulations governing that area, there you go. Some areas are zoned. Now, the limits of acceptable change clearly prescribes what's supposed to go on Gopito or around Gopito. Basic signage, that's it. Nature trail signage. Basic amenities, like if they have thatched roof huts for people who are going to go on the beach or whatever. But that's about it. And like I said, Bradley stopped a project for a mill in the constituency because of its iconic and heritage value. But yet here we have something that goes back before us as a people, and there are still some Carib descendants in places like Choiseul and in Deriso that can tell you of the names, and you can go back to the Kalinago, and we understood that it was worshipped, the Pitos were worshipped as a deity, as a god, by generations and peoples from that far back in our heritage, our history, captured by all kinds of French painters and all kinds of stuff like that. But no. Now the person who bought the land, they knew that there were limits to what they could do. And yet, the DCA was overridden by Clem Bob. When Kenny Anthony approved a sale of a piece of land, you can sell the land within the PMA the same way you can sell land if it was by the Derek Walcott Square. You can. But then from there, the referral agencies must do their job. And they did, because the DCA said that there should be no building where that gentleman went and built the Dollarama family or whatever these people are, these billionaires, the Canadian billionaires. And yet Bradley went along with this. Clem Bob overturned it. The cabinet went ahead with it. Harold Stanislaus went ahead with it. The lady came down, the Dollarama billionaire's wife came down and had a secret meeting with all of them, and Merry's the Christmas from there on in. But Bradley now, and I want you to think about this, you know that you've been part of the sale our, and allowing the building on part of our most notable, the soul of St. Lucia's heritage, the most important heritage site that we have. You know that your justification was employment that it created, temporary, but nonetheless. Sacrilege, something that no other country would let happen. We could not go to Canada and take a dump on one of their, or build on one of their sites. But then to have the audacity to go with UWP Chairman Pinkley Francis, folks, it's up to you whether you think it's a great thing to see a flag on top of a hill, or whether that's going to make you vote, or if you see the polls and you see one flag of one party bigger than the other, or the presentation, or if they paint the roads, or if the posters look nicer, if these affectations are what's going to make the difference. Well, for me personally, I think that's a sad indictment, although I do understand how they do engender a mood and overall atmosphere. But that said, folks, don't you think after you went and you pimped out, you prostituted, you have sold part of our heritage and participated in that to desecrate even your own constituency, because Gopito straddles both Soufrière and Choiseul and Slivoine area there. And you're going to tell me you see nothing better to do than to go up Gopito and put up UWP flags? Put up Flabo flags on Gopito? There are places on Pitipito that have endemic species that are protected. There's a mango tree on Gopito that you can't touch. It's 300 years old. And this is what you and Pinkley, and you always say Bradley's not a politician. No, Bradley's a sleazy politician.
You gave Choiseul hope simply by just walking in. You entered, we should have surrendered right then. You had a vision for all in the community. Your massive project, you shoot the earth under me. You fixed all the roads and you light up our fields. Oh Bradley, you are delivering. Voting you now is all we can do to achieve. If this isn't progress, don't wake me up from this dream. 'Cause Bradley, oh Bradley, you building Choiseul from the ground. We all see the progress, so there is no turning back now. For 5 years we know you working so hard. Bradley and Choiseul will not give up now, so whatever you do, don't take the axe off the flames.
What do you think would happen if I went up Gopito and put even a Revolution t-shirt and hung it up there? Wouldn't you call that desecrating a landmark? But you know what's even worse? And that's why I made sure to play the Bradley song and to show the UWP supporters, when you're dancing for Bradley and that remake of that classic country and western song, recognize that once you re-elect Bradley, a vote for Bradley is a vote for Chasney. A vote for Bradley is a vote for Guy. A vote for Bradley is a vote for Thief Money Mangal, for Fresh Start, for all those that raiding and raping the beaches, rape and scraping the beaches, for all those that getting all the contracts while everybody else is left out. It's a vote for a smiling, spineless endorsement of corruption to continue on steroids at the detriment of the country. To the detriment of the country, and with somebody who you know knows better as a banker. You know knows better. And yet you'll endorse that because you're getting some roads on credit being built by Cuban laborers? That makes sense? That makes sense? Okay, okay. Well, just remember that when Bradley went up there and yeah, all that time that Bradley's doing that, he had to come up through the Canadian Gopitor bottom, and he has to go down through the Canadian Gopitor bottom as well with all of those people, because the nature trail cannot be accessed unless you go through, well, since you had the other song, let me give you the real song that Bradley represents.
Stand on guard.
Product of Canada.
I am St. Lucian. I'm a product of St. Lucia.
I did my high school in Canada.
I went to school in St. Lucia.
I did my university in Canada. Both my kids go to school in Canada.
I went to university of the West Indies. I'm a proud St. Lucian, and I feel St. Lucia is the best place in the world.
Andrew, I'm a proud St. Lucian.
I'm a product of St. Lucia.
I'm a product of Canada.
The Prime Minister will be long gone. He will be having his whatever it is, going back to where he's a product of, where we will have to deal with the consequences of his clumsiness and his incompetence.
Protocols for international visitors while in St. Lucia. The following protocols are established to guide the stay of all guests while on island in order to mitigate any possible spread of infection. During the first 14 days, visitors are allowed to patronize approved beaches, restaurant, sea and land excursions, and sites and attractions. All visits are scheduled and pre-arranged by their respective accommodation providers. During this period, all visitors will be transported to and from the certified sites using only COVID-19 certified tourism transportation. After the first 14 days, if any visitor wishes to stay on island beyond the 14-day period, they must apply for and receive a health clearance certificate from the Ministry of Health. Visitors will be allowed to travel, be out in the wider public and patronize local businesses unsupervised once health clearance certificates have been received. During their entire stay, visitors must wear their mask whenever they are in public places and maintain the mandatory 6 feet distancing from others.
Can win this war. Get vaccinated. We're taking our life back. Get vaccinated.
People who are hesitant about taking a vaccine, my advice to you would be to first get information, and credible information. Do as much research as you can to educate yourself about the vaccine, so any qualms or any issues you have about it or with it, you would be able to put it to rest. Also, speak to a professional, see a doctor, someone from the Ministry of Health. They would better be able to allay your fears or ease your worries on taking a vaccine. Now that I'm vaccinated fully, my 2 weeks expired with my second dose, I am really looking forward to things getting back the way they used to. Also, Carnival. I'm looking forward to having the line again.
Get vaccinated.
This message is brought to you by the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Get up and go. Oh, oh, oh. I think I'm going crazy. Just thinking of you, babe. I need to be your lady, 'cause it's driving me insane. I think I'm going crazy. Thinking of you, babe. I need to be your lady, 'cause it's driving me insane. I wanna wake up to your face. It's okay, I'll take her place.
You're watching UTV, TV for you.
These are the facts. In 2010-2011, the UWP government initiated Operation Restore Confidence.
National Security Minister Guy Mayers has held follow-up talks with the Israeli ambassador to St. Lucia on technical support and training for local law enforcement. As part of its 6-point crime strategy, the government has reached out to foreign governments in a bid to rein in the unprecedented violent crime rate.
Over the course of 11 months, 12 people lost their lives.
As the former Minister for National Security,
gunshots became the soundtrack of the inner city. The 21-year-old is reported to have been killed by the police. Residents of Wilton's Yard, where Bernard died, claim he was executed by the law enforcement officers.
Killed him outright. He was begging for his life. To execute somebody in that kind of a way, my man, that is just awful.
The blame squarely on the ex-National Security Minister for the fallout from the ill-fated anti-crime offensive, Operation Restore Confidence. Police killed 12 people during the crackdown on violent crime in 2010-2011.
The result of this operation? For the first time ever, the United States placed sanctions on St. Lucia.
How in the world can the American president sit in the White House and supervise the slaying of another country's national in a police operation? These people get killed. You then want to debar our police officers.
No training assistance for our police. No equipment or material support. This is the legacy of the UWP that denigrates us all. The hardest part? Watching the UWP continuously trying to blame the police, all while the police were following the policies, programs and directives of the United Workers' Party government.
Leader of the opposition, Stephenson King, says at this point he, like everyone else, can only react to speculation about what may be going on between the U.S. and the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
Well, the human rights advocates have made an issue out of that particular incident.
As a people, we must demonstrate our commitment to the observance of law and order, human rights, and the rule of law.
Anybody found guilty, if it is considered to be an act of injustice, to be dealt with.
and raised that cloud of doubt over the police.
Justice has been done.
He gave me the responsibility for national security. When I took over this responsibility, you know what was happening in this community. We could not have a meeting like this and be here, all of you feel safe, and not one bullet flying anywhere.
Do you think police officers in St. Lucia are given due respect by the governments, and I say plural?
I try not to be political, but I think they are. But I have always maintained that respect is something that you have to earn, and whether it's from the government or from the citizenry, it's important as police officers that you earn respect.
But yeah, but you work with different ministers. Do you think, have all of those ministers worked with the police in a way that the police felt they had a friend, they had somebody looking out for them?
I think they have. What seemed to be happening in some of the cases that the ministers, I guess, they have their constituency. They are the ones generally who will run elections and things along that line. So they have this vested interest in ensuring that the police succeed, really. And sometimes some of them will go out of their way to, they tend to get too involved in operational policing, which creates a problem.
I keep saying that there has never been established a connection between ORC, Operation Restore Confidence, and the impacting. Am I correct in that? Would you agree with that? There's never been an established connection.
Well, I suppose in the eyes of the public,
in your eyes?
In my eyes, there was a degree of connection, but what I have also, and I explored it a bit in the book, is I think it was a bit more than Operation Restore Confidence. There was some other issues going on around the same time.
Now, if ever you wanted to see the ability of the United Workers' Party, Cambridge Analytica, and all of them, an ability to take an issue and turn it on its head, it has to be what we call impacts, but really should have been Operation Restore Confidence. Now, folks, if you want to talk about success, Kenny Anthony made a statement and commissioned the impacts team to do an investigation to produce a report which was supposed to be the guide for a director of public prosecutions to take it forward and then do the formal investigations. The report came from the impacts team, and the team was one of the recommendations that the Americans made and other countries made to resolve the issue. So Kenny Anthony was following the recommendations that were made. Now, here you had a United Workers' Party government with Alan Shastain, cabinet as Minister for Tourism, Guy Joseph as Minister for Infrastructure, Stephenson King, Prime Minister, all of them there. Minister for National Security was then Guy Mayers. And you had the killing of 11 people, 12 people. You had those killings, right? You had, up to this day, up to last week, you still have people, human rights lawyers like Mary Francis, still calling for justice, particularly in the killings that happened in Vieux Fort, at least 2 of the killings that happened in Vieux Fort. And yet, Kenny Anthony, they literally turned the whole thing on Kenny Anthony because of his statement in which he read certain excerpts from the report, but would not publish the full report. Now, my point in this is, folks, just think about this, sir. You have a crime, a murder, yet you blaming the staff for reporting on it. You have a crime or murder, yet you'll blame HTS or NBC or Choice or whoever or St. Lucia Times for reporting on it. So just think about that, folks. You have Operation Restore Confidence, commissioned by Stephenson King, financed, funded, and went on, it happened one weekend, it went for almost a year. It went on. Every week, another killing. Every month, another killing or 2. Conspicuous, obvious. You saw a printout with people's faces on it. You saw all of that. And yet still, you know, we are vilifying Kenny Anthony because of this.
Fellow St. Lucians, citizens, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to one and all. In all the years that I've had the honor to serve you as Prime Minister, the issues on which I am about to address you have been among the most challenging and difficult. This is so for 3 reasons. Firstly, they call for extremely tough, courageous but necessary decisions. Secondly, the matters in question have tarnished the reputation of our country and brought considerable dishonor to our police force both at home and abroad. Thirdly, the issues touch a raw nerve, our battle against crime, violence and lawlessness in our midst. It is therefore ironic that I am addressing you on this subject at this juncture, when for the first time in more than a decade, we have not had a homicide in January or February. All of this will be better understood if I place the issues in their proper context. In so doing, I will have to repeat some information which was the subject of a previous address to you on August 30th, 2014. This is necessary not simply to remind you of the facts of the matter, but equally to help you to better appreciate the complexity of the problem that faces us. First, let me remind you of the background which brought us to this point. During the period between 2008 and 2010, St. Lucia experienced an unprecedented wave of homicides and violent crimes, particularly in the northern half of the island. Our citizens were deeply disturbed by these horrific crimes and the seeming helplessness of our law enforcement agencies to bring them under control. On May 30th, 2010, in an address to the nation, former Prime Minister Stephen King launched what became known as Operation Restore Confidence, ostensibly to restore confidence in the police force and to provide a safer environment for the citizens of St. Lucia. The former Prime Minister warned criminals that, quote, there will be no refuge, no stone will be left unturned, and there will be no hiding place for anyone, unquote. The former Prime Minister announced the formation of a special task force of police officers and a change in the command structure of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. The Commissioner of Police, Mr. Osbert Regis, was transferred, albeit unlawfully, and replaced by Assistant Commissioner of Police for Crime, Mr. Vernon Francois, initially in an acting capacity. Mr. Francois was subsequently confirmed in his position by my administration. Several other appointments were made, but for the purposes of this address, it is not necessary to mention them here. The task force quickly became fully operational. It was placed under the direct command of the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of operations, Mr. Moses Charles. When these decisions were taken, ministerial responsibility for the police was assigned to the former Minister of Home Affairs, Senator Guy Mayers, who briefed the public on the changes effected by his government. Between 2010 and 2011, 12 persons met their deaths following encounters with officers of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. The largest number of the civilian casualties occurred in the Castries Basin, allegedly during the execution of duly authorized search warrants. These deaths attracted the attention of the United States of America, among others. In their country report on human rights practice in St. Lucia for 2011, the U.S. State Department reported, among other things, that, quote, the most serious human rights problems included reports of unlawful police killings, unquote. The same report added that there were 12 potentially unlawful fatal police shootings during the year, unquote. Consequent on the State Department's report, the United States government proceeded to apply to St. Lucia what has come to be widely known as the Leahy Law. There are 3 key provisions of this law appearing in different acts, all of which are of concern to us. The first states that, quote, no assistance shall be furnished to any unit of the security forces of a foreign country if the Secretary of State has credible information that such unit has committed a gross violation of human rights. The second goes on to say, quote, none of the funds made available by this act may be used to support any training program involving a unit of the security forces of a foreign country if the Secretary of Defense has received credible information from the Department of State that the unit has committed a gross violation of human rights, unless all necessary corrective steps have been taken, unquote. The third provision states that where funds are withheld from any unit, the Secretary of State shall promptly inform the foreign government of the basis for such action and shall, to the maximum extent practicable, assist the foreign government in taking effective measures to bring the responsible members of the security forces to justice. Upon application of these foregoing provisions, the United States ceased all financial and technical assistance to our Coast Guard. This meant that the government of St. Lucia was now solely responsible for the maintenance of its Coast Guard fleet. Other sanctions soon followed. The government of St. Lucia could not purchase ammunition from the United States for its American-made weapons. Members of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force could no longer participate in training programs sponsored or financed by the United States. Our police officers were also denied participation in training activities in the Regional Security System, RSS, our own regional organization, once the training program was sponsored or financed by the United States. There were still more consequences. The visa of the former Deputy Commissioner of Police, Moses Charles, was revoked. It is to be recalled that he was in charge of operations when the alleged extrajudicial killings took place. Further, though the visa of the Commissioner of Police, Vernon Francois, was not revoked, he was nonetheless denied entry to the United States, even to attend security meetings with officials of the United States.
Yeah. And there you have it. It's online for those who want to see it and to hear it. But the bottom line is, Kenny Anthony did what was requested of him. Get a regional or international team to investigate, get the people to prepare a report. And for those who say Kenny should have this person arrested, that person, there's separation of powers. It's not like how Chasney will transfer people in the public service so he can try to go after Hilaire and put cronies in customs to try to, force his hand into the justice system. There's a separation of powers. There's the administrative, there's the judiciary. The fact of the matter is that once you've given it to the DPP, the report is given to the DPP, it was up to the DPP to take her time or to move with alacrity to try to start to investigate. So what did she do? She went on early retirement and she did nothing. And then Chasney has come in. He has doubled and tripled the salary. I think the DPP now gets $25,000 a month. And after 5 years, nothing. Well, 5 years and 15 days, nothing. Nothing. So now we're in the 11th, we're in the 12th hour, politically speaking. And Chasney and them did not form the commission of inquiry that was promised by Guy Mayers. They've made no progress on resolution of impacts. What's even worse, while these officers could not be even interviewed for promotions, this government summarily took one of them, right, that being Moses James, and promoted him while all the rest could not even qualify to be interviewed, and put him as an ACP down in Vieux-Fort, where Herman Gill is running, Vieux-Fort South. And nobody knew nothing about that. Still active today, right now as we speak. Yep. So if you have 10, 15 people involved in Operation Restore Confidence, and their names are there, and then you don't let the others even be interviewed for promotions, but then you turn around and you choose the one that you like to put to be in charge of the police in an area where the Minister for National Security just conveniently decided to run. And now this.
Is an announcement made on Friday light at the end of the tunnel or merely a distraction from the bigger picture? The Leahy law sanctions imposed on St. Lucia by the United States government have hung over the country like a dark cloud for nearly 10 years. But in a surprising announcement by the U.S. ambassador to the OECS, it seems that we may be approaching an easement, at least on the surface.
Since 2013, the Royal St. Lucian Police Force has been excluded from our assistance due to the implications of some St. Lucian Security Force personnel in the alleged extrajudicial killing of civilians. I've come here to announce that starting today, we will be able to expand assistance to selected units within the Royal St. Lucian Police Force. After years of review that included consultations across the United States government agencies, as well as coordination with St. Lucia, we have been able to identify a number of Royal St. Lucian Police Force units with which we will be able to resume full cooperation and assistance.
The full benefits of the United States security assistance will first be provided to St. Lucia's Immigration Department and Marine Police Unit, with decisions on additional units to be finalized in the coming weeks. But this isn't the end of this decade-long saga. As the ambassador states, while conviction is not necessary, the officers involved must be prosecuted and the Leahy sanctions still remain in place.
We continue to call for the credible investigation and accountability in these cases in order to broaden cooperation to all units. We have always been confident that the vast majority of the Royal St. Lucian Police Force are professional and law-abiding officers who are not in any way connected to the alleged gross violations of human rights from a decade ago. Again, I would like to restate that this is only the first step, but it is a very important step.
While there's no word on a date for possible prosecution, the top brass of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force is looking toward working within the newly afforded parameters.
We are pleased that Your Excellency has announced the lifting of certain conditions of the Leahy imposition and has agreed that certain departments in the force will be receiving further assistance. And with that benefit, we hope to continue the good work that we have been doing, and we continue as we strive towards crime reduction, especially transnational crime and violence.
The newly reintroduced support from the U.S. government has not absolved St. Lucia of the responsibility to prosecute the allegedly involved officers. Prime Minister Alan Shastney seems acutely aware.
This administration will continue to provide all the support necessary to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, which is charged with investigations into the allegations of wrongdoing. We're also committed to providing all the necessary support to our law enforcement professionals charged with keeping us all safe. As an administration, we have showed this commitment in many ways, and our citizens' safety remains of top priority.
Until the officers are prosecuted and the impacts recommendations implemented, the United States will continue to withhold support to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, and some senior officers will be denied the necessary documents to travel to the United States of America.
So what does this mean? Well, it simply means that we should all be happy that there's been an improvement in terms of the assistance. I don't care whether you're UWP or Labour supporter, or you're no party supporter, or you'll swing from side to side, doesn't matter. If we are getting material support from the United States that we were denied before in any measure, we should be happy. But we also have to contextualize this properly. Folks, this is not, as you've heard, the lifting of the Leahy law. As a matter of fact, just listening to Miltong, I was saying if this American ambassador had to listen to that, she might well want to put the restrictions back. But that said, folks, this is not the lifting of the Leahy law. America acts always in its own interests. And if you want to understand it properly for our region, you just have to go back to what is known as the Monroe Doctrine. President Monroe in the United States considered that everything south of the United States belongs tangentially to America. Now, folks, what are the units that they are giving support to? They're giving support to the Marine units, drug interdiction. Why? Because whether we want to say it or not, St. Lucia is a drug transshipment point. In other words, I'm not saying we don't have St. Lucians who take drugs or are on narcotics like cocaine or crack or whatever, right? But the fact of the matter is, America consumes most of the drugs in our hemisphere and even in the world. That said, St. Lucia as a transshipment point is a security risk for the United States. So it makes sense for them to bolster what is in their interest in terms of drug interdiction. Simple as that, you know. Simple as that. For example, why didn't America provide training equipment for the major crime unit? The same major crimes unit that they had to be ready to haul in Joachim Henry and his wife, even though that was a summary offense that any police officer at any police station could have dealt with, but they wanted it major crimes. Why isn't it that there's no money being given for community policing, considering we have record high category numbers for all different crimes, especially murder? Why isn't it they didn't provide any major support for the criminal investigations department for all of the unsolved shootings that we have, all of the people that got killed and all of the open investigations? Criminal investigation department, they didn't supply anything to that. But nonetheless, we're in election season, so you have to get this. So let's put them up. Let's put up the first one. Fantastic. UWP PR. Remember, United PAC is the official organ of the United Workers' Party, endorsed by Alan Chasney, leader of the United Workers' Party himself. No matter how many people they slander, no matter how many public servants pictures they post, no matter how many emails they publish illegally of former priests and prime minister, well, priests and former prime ministers, the point is United PAC of Shit St. Lucia is saying this UWP administration has done what the Labour Party could not do. Today we announced that the US will restore support to our Royal St. Lucia police force. Right? Kenny couldn't, but we have. US government eases Leahy law on St. Lucia, strengthening security. Let's keep working. Yay, United PAC St. Lucia. And come back to me for a second. And you know, they make a victory lap. Oh, they put all kinds of context. They say that has to do with Richard Frederick. They come and they say that has to do with Kenny Anthony's weakness on crime, but Chasney's strengthens in terms of security, and what Herman Gill has done, presiding over the 3 highest murder counts in St. Lucia's history. First, second, and third. Chasney literally gold, silver, and bronze. Herman Gill, gold, silver, and bronze. But no, they have to do their victory lap because, hey, this is it. Leahy law is lifted, right? Let's show the second one. Fantastic, man. Leighton Lamentine, UWP landslide. Alan Chasney, UWP resolved the ORC, restoring our confidence. Now, you know the best part. They literally, for years, and I'm betting you that the majority of St. Lucians who watch this program today are for the first time seeing Kenny Anthony and what he did. He made a statement and he brought in a regional investigative team with ballistics expert, with all kinds of fingerprinting, with polygraph, with all of that, for them to do an investigation as per the recommendations of the United States and other countries. He commissioned a report and then he gave it to the DPP that did nothing, followed by Chasney bringing in another DPP, adding resources, doubling and tripling the salary of the DPP, because it went from $8,000 a month all the way to $25,000 a month, and still getting nothing. And America now, with its problems with regards to drug transshipment and everything else in terms of regional security, has picked out the 2 units that it wants to give resources to at its convenience. But because we are the 15th day of the 6th year of the 5-year term of the Chasney administration, they have to use it for political fodder. But you see, folks, a lot of these hacks of the UWP weren't paying attention. Because this isn't the first time America gave us assistance, even while we were under the Leahy law sanctions. You remember Chasney went and kissed Trump's ass together with the rest of the Lima group? Why didn't he get any sanctions lifted then? What did they come back? They said, oh, we'll get training from the Florida State Marine units and all the rest of that. Right? Bullshit, as if they would, a federal sanction could be superseded by a state-sponsored whatever training or material support. But folks, I can simply go back to April 2017 when Chasney was coming out of his bullshit about the Coast Guard boats and the radar system and all the rest of that, and I can show you the same lady in St. Lucia giving support to the St. Lucian Police, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force.
Chasney, Prime Minister of St. Lucia, the Director of Public Prosecution, Mr. Green, members of the St. Lucia government, permanent secretaries, diplomats, members of the American Embassy, the media, and honored guests. It is truly a pleasure to be back in St. Lucia, a country with which the United States enjoys excellent and productive relations. I thank Prime Minister Chastity and Director of Public Prosecution Green for their friendship, collaboration on topics of mutual interest, and commitment to public service. Today we're making a donation of equipment through the Embassy's International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs Office to the DPP's office. It includes printers, shredders, desktops, and laptop computers, filing cabinets, safe, and other equipment worth approximately 100,000 EC dollars. This is just a sample of what we are turning over to the office today. This equipment is intended to modernize the DPP's office and afford the prosecutors and their staffs the tools they need to work effectively and efficiently. Mr. Green, who took office just last year, brings fresh energy to the DP's office, and he deserves our collective support to ensure that law and order prevails in St. Lucia. This equipment represents a vote of confidence by the government of the United States for his good efforts. We are preparing similar donations for the St. Lucia High Court and the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, which sits here in St. Lucia. These equipment donations complement training we've conducted for the prosecutors, judges, custom officers, and correction officers. Furthermore, our joint United States-United Kingdom Criminal Justice Advisor, Sarah Abram, continues to work with your authorities on modernizing and streamlining criminal justice proceedings. As you can see, we are committed to supporting Prime Minister Chastady's efforts to strengthen the rule of law here in St. Lucia. The United States and the Embassy look forward to continuing our long-lasting relationship and partnership with St. Lucia and to making the country stronger, safer, and more prosperous.
It was amazing to me that when we took office, that the state of our inventory, that none of our coastal boats, Coast Guard boats, were functioning. Zero.
It was this seeming deplorable ignorance which led him to further state that no Coast Guard boats were operational when he came into office in 2011. The truth is, all except 2 boats were operational. The Defender was operational, the 2 Safe boats were operational, the 2 Brunswick boats needed a pontoon change. It has the same old engines, they were operational. Only PO4 and PO6 were not operational at the time.
Available at Red Dot in Grosile and Susie's Varieties in Bois de Wange and Vieux-Fort.
Welcome to the Entertainment Nation on steroids. UTV and Hits FM, sinking the eyes and the ears of tomorrow today. Not only can you see it, you can feel it. Airing on channel 124 or tune into radio 92.1 FM is Trisha Lionel in the morning at 11 and the ever controversial Revolution with Christopher Hunt. That's right, we don't do it normal. Stay locked in with UTV and Hits FM, channel 124 and 92.1 FM. UTV, TV for you.
This is UTV.
Coronavirus had delayed a lot of things.
Correct.
And so, and the Honorable Guy Joseph made the announcement on numerous occasions. He had made it here that St. Jude's will be open before the next elections.
Yes.
Now, I'm not the Honorable Guy Joseph. I am not down at St. Jude's, but I've been there on 2 occasions. A lot of work has been done. And I don't want to speak for the Honorable Guy Joseph. I'm speaking from my own, based on what I saw, my observations. A lot of work has been done. It's a huge building, a beautiful, huge building. But based on the delays, that's Champagne speaking, not the minister, I don't think that St. Jude's will be open before the elections if we have to look at 6 months. That is me speaking, that is not the minister speaking, that is not you, that is just me, based on what I saw. And I'm still not a contractor.
Yes.
I am just saying, I could be wrong.
Tell you something, I buy what you're saying, Champagne, but also there are different ways to run a business.
Yeah.
You went down to St. Jude's, there are 3 different structures.
Yes.
That's just me again. I have not discussed the matter with anybody. As a layman, I've been there, I haven't been there for 3 weeks with last time, but I get pictures of where they are.
Right.
Okay? There are ways and means that you can have what you call a soft opening, whereby you can concentrate on a certain area.
Okay.
Because I think from what I'm being told that St. Jude's has something like 50 patients or something like that. I don't know.
That's the George Adam Stadium.
Yeah, at the George.
Yeah, yeah. They may be.
That's not a lot of people. Okay.
Yes.
Welcome to the hotspot, and I'm the host who will be definitely doing the most, your boy Kwan.
And I'm your girl Z. We do know, Kwan, that proper healthcare remains the #1 priority for the government of St. Lucia.
Indeed, it is,
and
Kizzy.
over the past year, Kwan, we did see the move from Victoria Hospital to the OKEU Hospital, which provided much more medical opportunities for our citizens here in St. Lucia, Kwan. And let me tell you, the buzz about St. Jude's, Kwan, finally, as a citizen of the South,
Everybody's talking about it.
I feel elated that we are
Kizzy,
finally nearing completion of St. Jude's Hospital, Kwan. And we did, one of our roaming hosts, Joshua, did have the opportunity to go down there to speak to some of the employees on their experience. And let me tell you, it's a privilege to be working on a state-of-the-art hospital. So let's head on now to Joshua to see what he was able to capture with the employees down there.
Hey guys, you know who it is. I'm Joshua Harry here at the construction site of the St. Jude Hospital. We're currently here to see what's happening and all the progress that is being made. And to interview, I have a lovely young lady who's going to be joining me to discuss what's going on at the premises.
Hey guys, my name is Whitney Willie. I've been employed here as a site technician assistant for over a year.
Still at the construction site of the St. Jude Hospital. And next to me is Shem William, who is working on site here to make sure this hospital comes to fruition. So thank you for joining us. What is your experience working here at the construction of the St. Jude Hospital?
I've been employed here for about a year and a half. And over the past year, I realized that over 500 persons have been employed on this project. And young persons, that is, mostly young persons.
Well, the experience working here at St. Jude's Hospital has been one of growth and of hope, because it's been a while that we've been wanting and needing this hospital here, and we definitely now we have something of substance, we have something that has great promise, and something that is finally giving us the hope.
And that is something that is very beautiful that you said, because there are a lot of people who are seeking hope right now, who are facing unemployment. So with the construction of this hospital, do you believe that it has actually catered to some level of unemployment in the community or in St. Lucia?
Yes, it has. It has with the community, with the South. When we began, with majority of our workers here are from the South, and we worked even right through the entire COVID pandemic. We've been at it, we've been employed. Our numbers have not decreased. We've been keeping it steady. So yes, I believe it has helped a lot of persons through even the pandemic right now.
And as you say that there are a lot of young people or a lot of individuals who are here from the South, with this hospital being built, do you think that it will provide some aspect of economic development to the southern hemisphere of St. Lucia?
Yes, of course. I do believe that this would help. It is I think it is evident right now. You understand? Again, with the pandemic, you look at what's going on, you don't find as many people crying the way that they would. It's not felt the way that it is felt majority of the other places, because again, we're here, we're working at it, and you know, everybody has something to look forward to.
Thank you, Shem Williams, again for joining us on this discussion on the hotspot, and thank you for always speaking of hope, because you mentioned that a lot of times. It's always good to have faith, to have a hope, because you never know what's going to come and happen next, you know. So keep the inspiration. And Shem, before you go, do you have any message that you want to give out to our viewers?
You know, we need to come together a bit more. We need to wait and support, you know, just wait and know that something is coming. It's in the pipelines and it's for the better, you know. So you have to wait, you know, wait and see what happens.
I would really like to advise young people to, you know, keep the faith, keep going, don't give up no matter what.
You're here at Unity and Prosperity for a Resilient Nation, Independence 2021. We still on, and the journey continues. So back to you, Kizzy and Kwan in the studio and reporting live from the construction site in the south. Back to you in the studio, ladies.
Thank you so much for that, Joshua. It looks like you had a wonderful time in Viewfort. And don't forget to tune in next week, guys, for another interesting episode of News Flash.
Let me tell you, Kizzy, St. Jude's looks fantastic. We hear people talking about the Pearl of the Caribbean in the south. I think St. Jude's on its own will be the Pearl of the Caribbean. It looks absolutely incredible.
Indeed,
world-class facility, and I'm excited.
It does.
Being a resident of Dennery, it will be my absolute pleasure to head down there when I am feeling ill. So again, kudos to the government of St. Lucia.
There we go. There is the hospital. I want St. Lucians to compare what they're seeing today versus what was there before. You have now an international hospital. You have an airport going up next door. All these things work hand in hand to bring Viewfort to a civilized area. And that's all I'm trying to say. Nobody's fighting anybody. Do you think the government wanted to go out and borrow a whole lot of money to go and do something? For years, we owe it to St. Lucia, we owe it to Viewfort, we owe it to the South to make this happen. Right. Good morning.
It's good to see this beautiful structure we have down in Viewfort.
Yes.
The new built hospital by this government, the United Workers' Party.
Yes, what you cannot do, you fake. So it's Operation Vegle Moon. You need more evidence of that? Well, let's put up the photo so you can see for yourself that this is a concerted effort. This post there, look at it, almost there. Nice angle picture there, almost there. Because in UWP land, and this is a post from Frank Myers, you can see that the whole thing is to put the fixtures and the fittings. You haven't done the plumbing or the electrical. You haven't done the mechanical. You haven't done most of the major phases for a hospital. But of course, if it has windows and it looks nice from the outside, then you can obviously sell that. You know, that Jabba sack type thing. Let's show, we have another photo. It's amazing. Yes, here we have this guy, Lincoln Pascal, a former criminal there. Well, maybe still. I don't give a lab rat's ass about the useless noise of the Labour Party. The administration deserves another 40 years. They are delivering a modern state-of-the-art hospital, unlike the nonsense the SLP was building. Beautiful new St. Jude's Hospital. You see it there? Repost there. Now, folks, we're going to walk through this again. First of all, if you are building with cladding, cladding goes outside of your walls. If you look at the Harbor Club, if you look at the government buildings on the waterfront, they have cladding. But the cladding is on the outside of the wall. As an engineer, John Peters explained to me, a hospital is a living engine. It is a functioning, it is an active engine that has to go for decades, like Victoria Hospital, over 100 years old, that type of a thing. It has to be stronger and better put together than the average building, because in the event of an earthquake, a tsunami, a hurricane, it is where people come to as a place of last resort to preserve life. It has to be able to keep functioning with all of these things happening. So just imagine when people like me call it a car park, that right now, if you just took cladding and you stuck it onto the open areas that side, the lack of walls on the side of the car park, that it would be the equivalent of what's going on down there. And then, let's not forget about the dangers of cladding.
The upper floors of the 6-storey student residence, named The Cube, were engulfed. The building's 1/4 the size of Grenfell Tower. No sprinklers, but the alarms went off. Evacuation began almost immediately. There were multiple fire exits, and 200 firefighters were deployed.
It was terrifying because at first I thought maybe I'll be let back in because it would be controlled on the 4th floor where I think it started. But then I went further back down the road, right near the rear of it, and I just see flames coming over the top of all the buildings.
An investigation has begun. Cladding on the building is not the same as the material on Grenfell, but is one focus for the inquiry. By all accounts, the fire spread very rapidly indeed.
Over the last few decades, aluminium composite panels and expanded polystyrene have been widely used in construction. But as recent events have shown, some varieties of these materials are combustible. In the event of a fire, these combustible materials can contribute to the fire spreading.
This is where we do the testing on the buildings, testing the materials for their flammability.
And how many of these samples would you test a week?
Well, we've got about 100 waiting here. We typically would get about 100 samples a week from about 20, maybe 30 buildings.
Okay.
We've taken multiple points around the building to make sure it's representative.
And this is one of them?
And this is one of them, which has different types of materials. They have foam materials, and they also have the materials that you would have seen, which are the aluminium clad panels, which come in, which have the combustible material between the aluminium. Some of this material is highly flammable, as we'll see. So I'll just light up the gun, and you can see that
that's completely melted.
Completely melted within seconds. And what's more, what's in there is also flammable, right? And produces, as you can see, quite a bit of smoke. And that smoke is quite toxic.
And that's found in buildings?
And that's found in buildings, very commonly used in buildings. Okay. Then there's this material here, which is the aluminium clad panels, and we look at combustibility. So assuming that a flame is actually impinged, the tip of the flame is the point that we use, and you'll see that as it starts to heat up, the material inside there melts. Once it starts to burn,
it starts to peel away.
It'll start to peel away, and you can see that burning
and dripping. And you can smell it as well.
And you can see the smoke. It burns. If it's burnt in a vertical situation, it'll burn very rapidly.
And that smell, Dr. Garnis, is the PE melting?
Well, it's not just the PE. Usually these are, if you like, waste materials, waste plastics that are used, so there could be all sorts of other materials in there.
So we don't actually know in some instances what is burning?
That's right. Well, you can see the dripping there. It's dripping molten plastic.
So look out if you're underneath.
It'd be totally deadly. You'd just be covered. Very high degree burns and potentially lethal.
That's frightening.
Yeah. So now just imagine the side of the building is burning, and now we're dripping this material down onto the fire people or people trying to even exit the building. That's right, and that's really why we have to understand how this material behaves. And you can see it accelerating now.
That's actually getting faster.
It's now getting faster, and that's what typically happens.
That's turning into a much more ferocious fire than when we started.
And here it goes, yeah? Wow. And look at that. Imagine you're standing under that.
Oh my goodness, I can't. Yeah. I don't want to imagine that. That is frightening.
Yeah.
And it's still alight as it drips.
There's a lot of energy in that, and this is just one tiny little piece. And you can imagine a whole building, the side of a building, it would just be a total inferno.
Covered in highly flammable cladding.
So while they're showing off the cladding, the fact of the matter is cladding should be going on after you put the walls on. But instead of putting the walls on, they're just putting cladding on. So I got an architect, Mark Hennicott from Inter-Island Architects, to give me an assessment of the cladding that they're using to fool people.
I think the photographs in circulation in social media
can certainly have us deduce that the cladding panels being fabricated and erected on the site are what would be regarded as lightweight and non-structural. It means therefore that they may not be resilient to the natural hazards and low-frequency events such as storms, hurricanes, and earthquakes, which are typical of this Caribbean region. I dare say that as a construction professional who was trained in the Caribbean for the Caribbean, I will not prescribe or specify such a construction for a healthcare facility, certainly not in St. Lucia, for a number of reasons, including the fact that in its current location, the facility at Auger can be regarded as being in an exposed area and susceptible to major climatic conditions and hazards. Also, the lightweight cladding being used would have to depend on very secure fixings to overcome any lateral, high or low pressure winds or wind-driven missiles which are tending to either have an implosive or explosive or destructive effect on the envelope of the building. The cladding panels will also have to depend on a very robust and often expensive caulking compound to secure the edges to the concrete frame and to ensure that they can secure to each other if they are to render the building airtight and watertight. Also, because of the fact that the building is a frame structure and is expected to behave in a manner which allows movement, a certain level of movement, especially in response to seismic or earthquake activity, the fixings and jointing of the cladding panels can be compromised and can induce a corresponding impact on the internal envelope and structural integrity of the whole of the building. The lightweight nature of the cladding also makes it very vulnerable to fire events, and the ease with which smoke can transfer across the joints from either outside to inside of the building or from one part of the building to another. Similarly, if the envelope of the building is vulnerable to smoke, air, or even moisture, it will most certainly not safeguard the necessary sterile conditions in a healthcare facility, and which can even lead to the cause of contagion. Pathogens can move from one part of the building to another, or move from outside to inside, or likewise from inside to out, depending. Having been involved with designs of a few healthcare facilities under the guidance of PAHO, which, as a World Health Organization, has developed a design manual for health services facilities in the Caribbean, with particular reference to natural hazards and low frequency events such as storms, hurricanes, earthquakes, landslides and mudslides. I remain very concerned about the approach that has been adopted for this level 4 health care facility, especially against the backdrop that we.
Now, folks, remember that St. Lucia has never produced or even made cladding before. And a company coming out of nowhere is making cladding supposedly to the standard that we need, even though the world is moving away from cladding, the same way the world has moved away from putting helicopter pads on top of hospitals, especially with dumb little building pieces on top that further make it dangerous to have a helicopter pad. But that's for another show. Because bottom line is, I've given you an architect, now I'm going to give you an engineer to give you yet another assessment of what's going on at St. Jude's.
Apparently there are lots of efforts. People want to move into St. Jude tomorrow. And of course, that's not happening. And it's not going to happen. And it's not even going to happen by the end of the year. Because that project is so far behind in terms of what has to happen. And where we are at effectively with St. Jude, if you want to think about it, we're putting up the walls. That's what we're doing now. We're putting up the walls. The cladding effectively is like putting up the walls. We are so far away from anywhere near being complete in St. Jude Hospital. And it's a sad shame, no doubt, because we're now at 11 and a half years. And the reality is 7 of those years has been under this, the United Workers' Party administration. They were there first, and they're back again. And it looks as if we're going to go into a whole new administration, and St. Jude Hospital will still not be finished. But what is even more worrying about St. Jude Hospital right about now is that we actually have 2 hospitals next to each other. That's what we have. And neither of them are complete. So it's a very, very sad situation. The 5th year anniversary of the 2016 general election. Pretty much, time's up. That's what it is at this point in time. In any other, if you go online and you look at projected dates for any election, they give you a 5-year period, right? It's from the election date to election date, and they'll tell you time is up, right? So at this point, it's after midnight. Right? It's not even the 11th hour anymore. It's after midnight, and we're still piling on, spending, which at the end of the day, the St. Lucian population is going to have to pay back. But what is ironic about this entire situation is that a number of these projects, which we are now rushing to try to save face, to say, look, okay, we were able to do this. Of course, time is up for St. Jude Hospital. That's not going to be completed. Whether elections is in June of 2022, St. Jude Hospital is not going to be completed, in my estimation.
And also in speaking to John Peters, his estimation is that for the very least, there's another 2 years worth of construction to go on, because again, as a living engine, when you don't put in the water, the subterranean infrastructure of nitrogen, oxygen, the various things that would be, look, even with a house, you put the plumbing in first, right? The foundation, the plumbing would be in there. The electricals are not there. It is, for all intents and purposes, a car park now being retrofitted. But, and again, with cladding, which in and of itself has many dangers. Now, they blame the whole of the old St. Jude's on the Labour Party. Stephenson King started to rebuild St. Jude's. The Labour Party continued with no identified source of funding. None. And yet still, in doing it, it was at the commissioning stages where commissioning teams from accreditation bodies like Accreditation Canada had already come in and commissioned the East Wing and these other buildings already. We already finished the morgue and opened the morgue. Mary even had a soft opening of the morgue. That's how many. There are 24 buildings that are still there. We spent, they said $118 million, but the Shanta King handover report had it at just about $98 million on what was the existing St. Jude's. The whole of the footprint, the medical footprint at the George Odlum Stadium right now can fit inside of the East Wing alone. Can be done within 3 months. You could have moved those people 2018, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. You could have moved those people in 3 months in under $9 million. Right? There's a report showing that was presented by the Medical and Dental Association to bring those people into the East Wing, which is 4,000 square feet larger than where they are in the George Odlum Stadium now. Yet as of June 1st, we had another hurricane season with all these people at risk, plus you have COVID. And yet still, we are still pursuing this glorified box. $100 million now for this other building, while we were saying, the Prime Minister was saying that we were spending $80 million on both the OKEU and St. Jude's. And this building is almost doubling the size or the footprint, and we don't have the money to operate what is there now in the north and in the south. But yet we are building this big polyclinic, and I'm choosing my words carefully, polyclinic. Whereas a St. Lucian contractor, Renault, went over to Dominica and built a 60-bed hospital. The hospital that we're building now, this big box, is 90 beds. How much was the original St. Jude's going to have? 90 beds. But even if it's bigger, it's the same 90 beds. And here's Renault building a 60-bed hospital for $32 million. And I'll show it to you again because these pictures are literally from 48 hours ago or so. All right, let's show them. So this is the hospital that Renault has built in Dominica for 32 million EC dollars, with a pharmacy, dental clinic, 2 dental chairs, dialysis room, laboratory, 3 maternity rooms, emergency department with 2 emergency rooms and an isolation room, X-ray room, ICU department with 7-bed capacity and 1 dedicated for dialysis patients, 2 private rooms, 2 isolation rooms, 3 male wards, 3 female wards, 2 children's wards, and 2 operating theaters, an admin department with a nurse's director's office, an administration area with a separate hospital for the director's office, and a kitchenette for staff, pharmacy store, a pharmacy office, and a counseling room, 2 doctors' rooms, 1 nurse station, 1 nurse duty room, a triage room, a conference room, a mortuary, a biomedical waste room, a water tank, generator, 2 elevators, and more. And all of this has been done for $32 million. So what you're seeing there, right? What you're seeing there with the private rooms, the isolation rooms, the dental clinic, the laboratory, the maternity rooms, the emergency department, everything there for 60 beds at 32 million EC dollars, done by a St. Lucian contractor in the middle of COVID, because don't forget that Dominica was devastated by a hurricane in 2018, and this work continued all through 2020. That's why St. Lucians had to go to get work, while Shasney killed construction and had construction, by his own admission, contract by 22% under his administration. People had to run to go and get work in places like Dominica and Tortola. We can come off of that, because the most amazing part is that while the UWP is trying to boast of this new hospital, it is a district hospital. A district hospital also known as a level 4 polyclinic. Why? Because the reason why this building has been so conspicuously, vaguely portrayed when it comes to DC approvals only for the external structure is because from day one, Shasney and Guy have been trying to build a box that would serve only as a district hospital, not as a general hospital, as was being envisaged by the Kenny Anthony administration. That would, so you'd have 2 general hospitals, 1 in the north, 1 in the south, which was what the Medical and Dental Association and others recommended ever since Hurricane Thomas split the country in 2. Once the country is split in 2, people like Dr. Stephen King were the ones championing having 2 general hospitals, 1 in the north, 1 in the south. So while you might see it bigger, while you see it multicolors, while you see all of that, in all of that, it's actually a downgrade.
There's a lot of brouhaha about building a new hospital. And Guy keep talking about a level 4 hospital.
Able to meet the requirements of a level 4 hospital.
We are going to go to a phase 2, which is to build a brand new hospital.
The buildings look like they are good. They are good buildings construction-wise, but not adequately designed to accommodate a level 4 hospital.
Is to still explore all possibilities of a makeshift facility at the existing St. Jude.
I really think that the government is not coming clean with not just the people of the South, but certainly with St. Lucians generally. I think we're transcending into a worse situation. Because I was involved with the planning of the new Victoria, which invariably became known as the National General Hospital, and then was named the OKEU Hospital. It is speaking to a general hospital. It means that this hospital has emergency services and surgical services in there to deal with emergencies. According to the 2006 National Health Reform Plan that was formulated for the reform of the healthcare services in St. Lucia, different types of healthcare facilities have been delineated in that document. And you have what is called health centers or wellness centers. You have district hospitals or polyclinics and general hospitals. A level 4 district hospital or
polyclinic is like what you see at Grosley.
Okay. Let me stop you here. So a level 4 hospital is a polyclinic?
It is a polyclinic.
It's like what's in Grosley. What about the one in Dennery?
What we expecting in Dennery is a level 4
as well.
polyclinic.
So what is the difference because our people need to understand. Yeah. What is the difference between a level 4 hospital, which is a polyclinic, and a community hospital?
Simply put, one will be able to afford
more services,
and especially surgical.
Good.
Especially surgical.
So then we're saying what existed at St. Jude pre the fire was a community hospital.
A community hospital, a general hospital.
A general hospital.
Yes.
So Guy Joseph, by his own admission, with that level 4, which I suspect he believes is a 4-story building, with that level 4 hospital, is actually downgrading what existed.
Yes, and it will offer minor, according to the reform document, it will offer minor surgery. In fact, let me just read what it says.
Yes, okay, good.
According to the National Health Reform Plan of 2006, and it says 2006 to 2011, I'm not sure it has been revised, a level 4 healthcare facility refers to a polyclinic.
The project will involve the construction of a new wing to incorporate all functions and services of the existing east and surgical wings of the existing facility. Integration through retrofitting of some of the existing buildings to achieve a fully functioning hospital to match the services of a level 4 facility.
You are quoting from a document that was prepared by consultants for St. Lucia.
Absolutely. Level 4 healthcare facility refers to a polyclinic or a district hospital in which the broad services provided include but not limited to dental, laboratory, radiology, minor surgery, physiotherapy, maternal child care, and audiometry. Audiometry is to deal with your hearing.
Yeah, I know.
But this is an extremely large departure, Richard,
from what
would have been there, which was referred to even in your 2008 quadrant plan for the island.
Yes.
A regional hospital for Beaufort.
Yes.
Regional. A new polyclinic district hospital in what invariably was going to be the green area and car park of the complex had it been completed. It's removing it from the main facilities, the main infrastructure, so you have now to duplicate all of that for it to be a standalone healthcare facility in a confined space. It is no longer healthcare and recuperation as was provided by St. Jude. It is going to be a fast, almost like a fast throughput of health provision, seemingly like outpatient service. And anything that requires secondary, you have to head up to Victoria until OKU can get permission.
What I know is how to use money to gain wealth.
So the obvious thing that you're going to say is that the polyclinic at Grosley is nowhere as big as what's in Beaufort. But you see, folks, if you want to eat people's money and vegle people, you can build a big parking lot. Big, nice design, whatever you want to call it, although I don't find it that appealing. But that said, the fact of the matter is, what services does it afford? You have an international airport. You're talking about the new frontier and driving investment, and yet you want to build a downgrade level 4 polyclinic district hospital? Because the Cayman business model requires that for our population, they have to be the only game in town. So anybody that goes there will be going to the district hospital, and all the surgeries you'll have to go up to OKEU, which Chasney has privatized right underneath our noses. That's what's happened. Don't take my word for it. Speak to any medical professional that you have in your family, nurse, doctor, administrator, doesn't matter, and they'll tell you. But nonetheless, Sometimes it's good to just have solutions, and I want to thank people like Calvin Edward, that's APA, and the others who went on the day that we are speaking on Friday about inside of St. Jude's, so that you can see for yourself, and then I'll give you some of the comments made by at least one engineer coming out of seeing these videos. So bear witness what the UWP is boasting about.
Let's see what St. Jude does there, my people. Like he does there. Yeah. Nothing yet, no partition. Just the outside. Watch it, watch it. Cladding. Oh, yeah, didn't say any partition, man. You have to power, didn't say? Inside of the building, it's a 30-30. Give it chambers and things. Okay, respect. St. Jude's. Yeah, up inside the St. Jude's, my people. Watch it. I'll never do that. Yeah.
So there you have it, there you see it, but I'll go through just a couple of concerns raised on observations raised by a qualified professional who worked on other hospitals before. So the video reveals for internal partitions two very critical issues relative to the construction of the internal partitions and the external lightweight cladding. In the first case, there's apparent from the video that it is a rush to completion. Provisions for the suppression of sound or reduction of noise transmission between the adjacent spaces across floors have been overlooked. The galvanized framing is shown fixed directly to the concrete substrates, which is without sound insulation. This can permit the transmission of noise and vibration between the floors and across functional spaces. Roof waterproofing. In another video, I saw incidents of rainwater penetration. This was unacceptable at this stage of the project because provision in the construction ought to have been in place already to dispose of surface water in order not to compromise any of the ongoing works. It is conceivable that such a problem can be checked with the proper application of an approved waterproofing mastic or built-in roof membrane. Fire protection. One fundamental concern which the video exposes should be that in ease of transfer of fire, smoke and heat within the envelope of the building between floors, especially as it also begs the question whether the design has made provision for incorporating adequate fire stops in the voids between the external cladding and the reinforced concrete masonry of the framework around the perimeter of the building at all floor levels. In the partitioning, in other photos, it appears that the installation of internal partitioning seems to just be commencing and seems as if the installation of partitioning has preceded the installation of soffit mounted building surfaces, especially if the central corridors should double as service ducts. In hospital construction, in which service runs are usually long and uninterrupted, it is always more convenient and economical to install long-run service lines before partitions are erected. That's just some of the comments, folks. The phone lines are open, 572-7588 and 484-7588. We can talk about St. Jude's. We can talk about Operation Restore Confidence. We can talk about any other issue that you want to raise, like the police bias, once again over this weekend in terms of policing Labour Party activities, and never once since its inception, since Shastny went out to Olio up to today, have they ever managed to do anything in terms of policing UWP political activities, even as Guy Joseph had a motorcade where the same vehicle that was used to try to careen into a crowd of Labour Party supporters with the driver and the license plate of the vehicle and the vehicle identified has still yet to be prosecuted. So like I said, we can take calls, but there's others. There's the curtain wall cladding. What can also be observed in some of the photos are that the materials used in the fabrication of what clearly are the lightweight, what is very lightweight curtain wall panels. Invariably, these panels comprise very thin skins and of pre-painted cementitious Duroc material secured to a galvanized metal framework and fixed onto the side of the building to provide the final finish to the building's exterior envelope. Given that the function of the building as a healthcare facility, it's difficult to appreciate how this form of construction shall safeguard the hospital from the impact of hurricanes, gale force winds, earthquakes, and even in driving rain. Good afternoon, caller.
Hi, good day, Chris. I'm just calling to ask one question. I don't know much about this politics thing, but I'm just asking, so if the UWP wins again, right? So they win a second term. At the end of this second term, will they be entitled to a pension?
It depends. It's not the government, it's how many terms each MP. For example, there are those that say that that vote for Herod so he can get a pension. Never mind all the Skyline Construction Company and all the land that he is appropriating and everything else and all the conflicts of interest. Or vote for Bradley so Bradley can get a pension, because once you do a second term, I think that is when you qualify for a pension. Not the government en masse, but each MP. So for example, Guy Joseph would already be entitled to a pension because he's already done 15 years of plundering us. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to clarify that so that, I mean, maybe some people like me would know what to do for the next election, because at the end of the day, I'm seeing that we just feeding these people more and more and more while we staying hungry. So we're setting them up for a future, and our future is not even certain.
Yep. We promoting them while
thank
we
you.
stay behind. Thank you, caller. We have another call that's been on hold. Good afternoon, caller. Oh, we lost that call. Okay, we'll hold on for one more call. But, folks, as of now, because Shasney has now postponed the sitting of the House of Assembly for him to borrow 13 million euro or about 43 million EC dollars, my prediction of July 13th for elections, since he won't be having that tomorrow, although he doesn't need to be in the House to call elections, but he must have... Did I chase you from the date again, bro? Like, seriously? I've done it like 5 times. Did I chase you from the date again of calling elections? I'm sorry. I really do want elections for July 13th, but if you don't hold Parliament tomorrow, it's not really possible. So what you going to do now? How far are you going to run? We have a call. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, caller.
I want to make 3 stops, but I will stop in Choiseul first.
Okay.
The last time I heard the Prime Minister, some time ago, he was in Choiseul by the craft center, speaking about, I don't know if he was really there, but he was talking about the craft market, how St. Lucia has great people that can do craft and stuff like that, where that, you know, the coconut husk would be an ideal thing for them to make earrings and stuff like that for the tourists, so that therefore they will have great jobs in St. Lucia. But when I really look at it, that is an insult on the people, because Shasney will never wear a bracelet, a coconut bracelet, because the last time I watched his arm, I saw he was wearing a watch 33,000 US, and I have seen many more, although I do not know much about watches, but I consider price and Google it, and I consider watches on his arm, 25, 15, 20, which before he never wore a watch. Okay, so we need Choiseul, because I know it will take them vendors their whole life to make coconut husk earrings and bracelets, and they will never be able to buy a sheet of plywood. Right?
Well, caller, in fairness to Shasney, while he does have an $80,000 watch on his arm, and we don't know who bought it for him or under what circumstance, he also makes sure, because it's politics time, so he makes sure to put on the other hand, he has a little beads and so on. He doesn't have coconut husk, but he has things that will make people feel, hey, you know that man cool kind of a thing. Eh? He does have one or two. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we leave Choiseul, we go to Vieux-Fort now, to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You mean to tell me that the thing I'm seeing on my television screen there, that is what Shasney will give us as a hospital? He will never put his horses inside of there, the barracks that day. He will never put his horses there, because when the horse track was being built, Met was posing every minute by the horse track. The way it is being built, air conditioned, everything well secured for the horses. You understand? He will not put his horses inside of the barracks building there for us. He will never do the horses that. So why he have to insult us to that degree? Why he has to do that?
Because there are people who will spin it for him. I mean, look, I've shown the old St. Jude's, and they used to try and show when it was under construction to declass it. This hospital is under construction, so that's not the issue. The issue is already you're building a hospital back to front. You don't have plumbing and electrical. You don't have side walls, but you have cladding with composite material, including cement, that already you see the problems with it.
Because what happened is, because they will fool us and call us jackasses all the time, and with the jackasses, we'll still go back and vote for them. Because you see me, when I look at Lucian wearing yellow shirts and jumping, and the hospital do not, Owen King do not have an X-ray, Vieux-Fort do not have X-ray, St. Jude do not have X-ray. What are we doing to ourselves? And we still jump in for nothing. We jump in to die. We basically jump in to die now.
In truth.
Okay? You cannot do that. All right, you cannot do that to the people, and you're still going to spin it how you all want to make sure that what you all are saying is the right thing, and people are not seeing within. Okay, we leave that, because this is what they're showing us, and this is what they want people to swallow. It's up to us to swallow it, because I'm sure we have eyes in our head, and we have brains, and we can understand, even if they call us jackasses. I'm going down to to Castries Southeast.
Okay.
You Guy Joseph. You meant to tell me, I do not know if after Guy Joseph's father died, they will CIP to him. His father will CIP to him. I want to know. Because you cannot tell me that you are not going to give no other ministers, sitting MPs, nothing. You are going to take all for yourself and your friend. What's the name of the man? The Johannesburg. Mamem connect noise.
Okay. Johannesburg, yes.
You understand? You are going to, they will CIP to you, okay? And you're going to take all the monies and don't give nobody and go build forest here. You build in your haven that you will have to sit for the next 100 years. This is not your money. You have to give the people what is due to them. You will not give Philip J. Pierre. You will not give Ernest Hille. You will not give Musa. You will not give
Alva.
That one in Alva. You will not give Kenny. You will not give Sean. And everything is okay for you. And the money is not yours.
The only way that happens is if you have people who will vote for people who do those things. People who will see the Belrose Doctrine, who will see themselves being marginalized and still vote for that. And even if the UWP wins a constituency, people like Fede have proven like how he has willfully neglected canneries, that if there are parts of a constituency that do not support UWP, they ignore it. It's just like Spider. Spider go all Labon and pave one road and leave the other set of residents without road. What message are you sending? You dividing people. You causing internal chaos.
And you know what they did with the CIP money? They took it and they give it to all their hacks to go and build their roads in their community. Give Wikwena Road with the CIP money. Give Spider Beg. After Spider Beg, 1 year they gave it to him because Spider is not on the priority list. Spider Beg. He kiss us, he lick us. So they give him $1 million. He go and just build a road for himself behind the zone. He said, okay, says, si moi jeune bagay, me pa buy money. He just build a road for himself and
that
he
is
finishes
true.
the people in
But
the
the others are being built on credit.
Yes, and then Pinkley Francis get one for himself because okay, we have to look for the hacks. We have to look for our people. Let us set them up. And this is what we do to the people's money that has to go to the constituency to give their little sidewalks, to give the little drain, to give the people some life in their community. Why are you not doing that? And you tell me you are for the people? At what point you are for the people?
Well, caller,
Tell me at what point?
Caller, unless the people rise up and reject that. You know, everybody thought that this last election, it would have been a repudiation of Donald Trump, and Trump ended up getting, he still lost, but he got more votes. So if, for example, Shasney lose 9-8, and you see the difference in the margin is like 500 votes difference island-wide, it will tell you that a lot of people are in league with it. So I don't know.
Exactly.
We will see.
Because we need to get up and what is happening to our little country because it has gone by the ass already. We need to pull it from the precipice. It is going down, and I'm feeling it. I don't know why certain people doesn't feel it. I don't know what they're jumping to. Huh? Trust me. Anyway, Christopher.
Thank you, caller.
Talk again.
Thank you, caller. Let's take this last call. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for holding.
On après-midi, je voulais demander une petite question. Pour clair sévèrement sur cette bagaille.
No problem. Dis-moi pas.
Nous EU a ban nous l'argent pour l'hôpital là comment? Right?
For OKEU.
OKEU. OK. Et que ban nous conditions pour nous gagner from you. Est-ce pas?
Yep, for community hospital in terms of to service. The hospital was based under the premise of giving health care that's accessible to all, never to be privatized.
Okay. Now, you fais ça, you banou ça comme cadeau. Now, on m'a dit, quand c'est moun ça là, à l'autre pays, quand you bail c'est moun dans l'autre pays, à l'hôpital là, qui manière nous kay comporter qu'on nous et EU en condition à nous?
Well, I'm not.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Ask the next question.
Nous avons un abattoir en Vieux-Fort. Et moi, ça gouvernement Australia on commence gouvernement bay la han c'est bay ça.
Taiwan encore.
Et nous croiser ça. Ça qui manière nous kay hen la han ça encore. Pour faire l'autre abattoir. Et troisième question moi, c'est toute la han nous ka priti. Qui manière nous kay fait payer because nous sommes ka payer pile la han parce que nous ka fait la han.
But Taleb, let me just answer the second part while I remember it. They took money from the IMF relief funds to build what they are building in, what's the name of this place? In Volette, in Miku, right? And conspicuously, both Shasney and Nicholas John have land in the area, and they are taking 40 acres to put roads and all the amenities. In other words, developing the real estate there. And Volette, only the area that they have is just a little, 1-2 little buildings that they put up there. But they took money from the IMF relief funds meant for the people in order to do that. Tewa King never put a cent. Continue.
Now, la yo prêté pour la c'est mon ami abattoir. Qui manière nous kay fait payer yo? Oui.
Well, caller, but that's
because
yeah, go ahead.
Nous croiser abattoir. Which means that nous n'avons un lot set là, nous besoin un lot set là pour faire un lot abattoir.
But that's what I'm telling you, caller. They took money from the IMF and they're building something in Volette. They haven't knocked down the abattoir yet. Oh, and that also has a racket behind it. Ezekiel is very upset because they wanted to give Concreto to knock down that building. But Tewa King said that since he has changed the angle of his track, he no longer needs that building or that land or that building to be knocked down. But the UWP is playing hush-hush with that. Continue.
Yo ka potentiel là, mais moi observer ces civil servants là qui travaillent, et c'est non like c'est docteur qui travaille. Mais yo pas une pièce là, c'est là, ça là. Non plus ces moun là, yo ven là pour ba yo en support en temps Covid là. Yo pas une pièce là because c'est moun là qui pas une pièce travail, qui pas de travail. Yo still pas une là ça là. Donc qui manière nous kay fait payer là ça en condition nous les nous savent that tourism pas kay vini kon était avant. Moi veux répondre c'est ça bon moi.
Okay. Well, caller, all I can say is you don't have to wait to see if Shasney wins elections to see if he'll give the people relief or unemployment benefits, because he has the chance now. He could have announced any time that he would have given bonuses to the first responders, to the public servants. Instead, he wanted them to take a 50% pay cut in the worst of times. So if this is how Shasney is treating the people in the worst of times, you honestly believe that if he wins and you endorse what he's done or how he's treated you, that he'll treat any of us any better? He has borrowed over $300 million more than any other country in the OECS, and yet all the other islands have given stimulus. They've given unemployment benefits. I'll show you tomorrow what Barbados is doing for the creative sector, for the band managers and leaders and the musicians and the DJs and everything in St. Lucia. They just have to suck salt and just hope they get on a playlist. Caller, I don't know what to tell you, but to me, you just have to trust what you feel and what you know. But thank you very much, folks, and thank you very much, caller. My time is up, but I do want to show that the House is postponed, so let's just put that up. See, June 21st, 2021, Office of the Clerk, the sitting of the House of Assembly and Senate scheduled for Tuesday the 22nd and Thursday the 24th of June respectively have been postponed. The Honorable President of the Senate and Honorable Speaker of the House of Assembly apologize for any inconvenience caused because tomorrow was supposed to be yet another round of Madi Puete. Instead, I don't know what's really going to happen. He doesn't need to go into the House of Assembly to call the elections. But once again, confusion, anxieties, we don't know what these guys are doing, whether they're just making it up as they go along. We don't know what is going on, all because St. Lucians have been ready to make a decision based on this government for over a year, or I would say maybe even as many as 3 to 4 years now. St. Lucians are frustrated, St. Lucians are angry, St. Lucians do not understand how you can decide that you want to keep staying in office until you finish projects. Mama, can you imagine if Kenny were to tell you he's not holding elections until he finished projects? Or Vaughan Lewis did the same thing, or Stephenson King, or Sir John, all now so Compton would still be there? I mean, come on, folks. St. Lucia, like I said, we're going to have to fight for it. We're going to have to fight for it. In the meantime, well, if he doesn't do it this Tuesday, I guess he's going to do it next.
Same way a home has to live within their means. Governments must live within their means. You cannot be borrowing money ad infinitum. We have to spend right now, based on my last, some $12 to $14 million a month in loans. How can a poor island like St. Lucia survive?
There was only thing that the Labour Party did well was to increase the debt. And those of you who are small business people will understand what I'm saying. You cannot borrow money to pay for debt. So if you have a loan, you cannot make another loan to pay for that loan.
You borrowing too much money, and like I see like you doing that because you know you're gonna lose. Like a Trump kind of thing like that.
St. Lucia's public sector debt has increased by more than 900 million, or 30%, since the Shastney administration took office in 2016. According to this table, St. Lucia's debt is highest in the Eastern Caribbean, close to 350 million more in the red than number 2, Antigua and Barbuda.
Bad heat wave day is coming.
The opinions expressed on this TV program by the host, co-host, The opinions expressed on this TV program by the host, co-host, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of UTV or its affiliates.